Let me say something about faith in El Salvador and about the situation of the church and Christianity. Many people, when they think of Central America and El Salvador, think about the martyrs, people like Archbishop Romero, people like the 4 U.S. church women who were killed here in El Salvador in 1980. They think about the 6 Jesuits and the 2 women who were killed at the Jesuit University, where we're broadcasting from today, where we're filming. And they're aware of how the church exercised a prophetic ministry accompanying the poor during times of great conflict, even civil war, how many catechists, our sisters and priests were killed for standing up for human rights during the 1970s and 80s here in El Salvador, and also in Guatemala, Bishop Girardi, and other countries of Central America. Here in El Salvador, for the last about 10 years, we have noticed that about 55% of the population claims to be Catholic. That's actually low by Latin American standards. Only in 1989, when we took a poll here at the university, 67% of the people, 2/3, declare themselves Catholics. And during the 70s and 80s, here and as elsewhere, there was growth, especially of Pentecostal Protestant churches, in some ways responding to the deficiencies of the Catholic Church, which had not actualized, had not brought itself and its practice up to date in the spirit of the Second Vatican Council, had not achieved a real renewal of the Church. The Church has responded, however, and has looked for many ways to try to renew its ministry. Today, about 28% of Salvadorans declare themselves to be evangelicos or evangelicas, mostly Pentecostal Protestants. But also, there is a substantial Baptist community that goes back to probably the 1930s in El Salvador. Both the Catholic Church and the Baptist Church, which have such a long history and are spread out around the country, and the Baptist Church being much smaller, are churches that are polarized around the issue of the poor. What do we do with the poor? For some people in the church, the poor is really not our business. Or if it is, it means giving some alms, it means giving some food to somebody who comes to the parish door. For others, and for example, here at our university, we insist that the poor are the crucified vicars of Christ, and that if we don't stand up for them, we don't have the right really to speak out on behalf of God. That the church has to walk with these people and suffer the consequences if it's to be faithful to Christ. This has been very costly in El Salvador. It has led to the development of a model of church that is attractive to many people. The model that was modeled, especially and put into practice by Archbishop Romero and people who collaborated with him. He asked for a lot of help during his ministry as Archbishop from 1977 until he was murdered in March of 1980. This is the church in which small groups of people reflect on the scriptures. They have tasks in the community. They try to relate the Word of God to their own situation, their social situation, their family situation, the situation of the country. They undertake commitments in society, commitments for change, respond to the problem of great injustice. Priests, sisters, bishops spoke out in a prophetic ministry that cost the church sometimes in blood. Liberation theology was a part of that. Liberation theology at the level of these Christian communities at the base of society, and liberation theology such as that was written by Ignacio Echeverria, the murdered rector or president of our university, John Sobrino, and others in our theology department. This is one of the glories of the church. What's going on as we see the growth of Pentecostal Protestantism is simply, I think, something analogous to the Protestant Reformation that took place in Europe in the 16th century. In other words, people are exposed to different coherent models of religion and now are free to choose those. Whereas 20 or 30 years ago, they would not have had direct contact with people in these communities, and so now they choose. As I said, during the political and military conflict here in El Salvador, in part when it was very dangerous to be a Catholic in some places, there was a very strong growth of these Protestant Pentecostal groups. They, for their part, during the time of great violence, maintained a kind of scandalous silence in the face of massacres, and were used really to counteract the type of commitment with the poor that we associate with Archbishop Romero and our martyrs. Today, the situation with these Pentecostal churches is more complex. Some of them are evolving in a way that allows them to respond, and they see the need to respond to the immense social injustice, to speak out on that, to learn more about it, to respond more coherently. We're seeing some of that, but I think it's fair to say that the majority still remain pretty much uninterested in the grave problems of this world and of our society here. Naturally, one of the great challenges for us, and I'm speaking to you here at the Centro Monsignor Romero, the pastoral center of our university, one of the challenges to us in the church and in this building, in our theology department, is to hand over the legacy of this committed, serious, adult form of Christianity to the new generation of Salvadorans that has been exposed to consumerism, urban life, pluralism, other forms of religion, and are thinking, many of them, of going to the United States. I'm happy to say that many of them do turn out to events commemorating Archbishop Romero, the martyrs, and there is a great commitment on the part of young people to the faith and to the church. And on the basis of their faith and their church, also to their neighbor, and to changing the terrible injustice that we have in this country. Others are questioning. Others are falling into a religion of maybe escapism as well. The panorama is very complicated, but that challenge remains to us, and the figure of Archbishop Romero and our other martyrs remain a kind of inspiring model with which young people in El Salvador can identify today. And so with that, we finish our brief description of religion in El Salvador.